Hi, in this video we are going to look at the dorsal column. Now, the dorsal column receives the different sensory sensation from the body and it bring it up to the cortex. It's also called the ascending tract. Now, if we look at the different fibers from the different segment in the spinal cord, how they are being added and how they are being received. So here we divide the thoracic segment or region into upper and lower thoraces. So the lower 6 thoraces, the lumbar and sacral. Now, these fibers, they will go and they will have a cell body in the posterior root ganglion. So the lower 6 thoraces, the lumbar and the sacral, they will give a cell body in the posterior root ganglion and will enter the spinal cord. From the spinal cord, they will not cross. They will go ipsilateral and they will go medial most. So the lower part of the fiber will go to the medial most of the dorsal column. Now, if we look at the organization in different fibers here, let's imagine this is the one-sided dorsal column, and the sacral fibers from the lower most of the body will go medial most, and then the lumbar will be added, lateral, and the thoraces, the lower thoraces, the 6 thoraces, together they will make a bundle, and this bundle is called fasciculus gracilis. And then the upper 6 thoracic segments and the cervical, they will be lateral and they will make a bundle, and it's called the fasciculus cuneatus. Now, if we look at this organization here in our diagram, and here I draw again the left and right dorsal columns, and they will have the medial most, remember? The medial most, and it is the fasciculus gracilis, the fiber from the lower part of the body. And then here on this side as well. And then we have the upper 6 thoraces fibers from these segments and the cervical. They will give the cell body in the posterior root ganglion, and then here there will be the lateral. And this lateral bundle is called the fasciculus cuneatus, and it's on both sides, right? So this is how the organization is. Now, what sensation do they bring up, this system bring up to the cortex? Now, there are different sensations they bring, like discriminative touch. Now, what does it mean by the discriminative touch? When you touch a person while his eyes closed, he can accurately recognize the point where, or the location where he was touched. Or 2-point discrimination, when 2 points are pricked or touched very closely and still can accurately localize, means 2-point discrimination. And then there is the vibratory sense, and then there is the conscious muscle joint sense, which is the proprioception. Now, all these sensations will go through the dorsal column. Now, the dorsal column is heavily myelinated and it is very fast system. Now, these sensations, when they go up through the fasciculus cuneatus and the fasciculus gracilis, and now these bundles, they will go up and reach medulla. In medulla, there are 4 nuclei on which they will terminate, as the fiber within them is the first order neurons. And these first order neurons will terminate on cuneate nucleus and nucleus gracilis. Now, the fibers from fasciculus gracilis will terminate on the nucleus gracilis, and the fiber from fasciculus cuneatus will terminate on nucleus cuneate, right? So here, now this is the first order neurons, and they will terminate here. If we label these nuclei and show which one is the gracilis and cuneate nuclei. So here is the cuneate nucleus, and on the other side as well, and here is the gracilis nucleus, okay? And now these fiber will terminate here, and the second order neuron will arise from here, and they will cross from left to right and right to left. And it's called the decussation here in medulla. And these fibers are called the internal arcuate fibers. Now, these internal arcuate fibers will go up as a medial lemniscus and will cross medulla, pons, midbrain, and reach the thalamus. So here is the medial lemniscus. Now, if we look at these nuclei, and I draw it outside here and show how this decussation occur. Now, here are the 4 nuclei. Now, there is one thing to note, that the fibers, some fibers from the nucleus cuneate will go to cerebellum. It's called the cuneo-cerebellar fibers or tract, okay? So here these fibers will cross to opposite side, and here the decussation will occur. So now the sensation from the one side of the body is taken to the opposite side of the cortex. So when there is a lesion in the cortex, you can have contralateral sign and symptoms. So here is the internal arcuate fibers and everything. So now these medial lemniscus will go up to the thalamus, and the second order neuron will terminate on a nuclei in the thalamus called the ventral posterior lateral nucleus here on both sides. Now the third order neuron from these nuclei will arise and will spring out or radiate out from the posterior limb of the internal capsule. This green is the internal capsule, and here is the posterior limb. And the fiber will radiate out from the posterior limb of the internal capsule and will reach the postcentral gyrus, and it's called the corona radiata. Now, these fiber bringing sensation from the different part of the body, so that's how the cortex can sense the touch when you prick a person with a pin, or any vibration or any other sense, and it will be felt or sensed by this cortex, and that's how accurately you can localize where you've been touched. Let's quickly summarize the dorsal column. So the dorsal column, if we start with sensation, the different sensation like discriminative touch, vibration, proprioception, the conscious joint muscle sense, all these sensations are received by receptors. The receptors are Meissner's corpuscles, Pacinian corpuscles, muscle spindles, and tendon organs. Now, these receptors, when receive these sensation, through the first order neuron will go up as a fasciculus cuneatus and fasciculus gracilis in the dorsal column, right? So here is the first order neuron, and as a fasciculus cuneatus and gracilis as a dorsal column, they will terminate on the nuclei, which are the cuneate and gracilis nuclei. And from here, the second order neuron will go opposite side or cross to the opposite side as a decussation and go up as the medial lemniscus. The medial lemniscus will reach the thalamus, and from the thalamus, you will have the fiber to the cortex, to the postcentral gyrus. Now, let's say that all these sensation from your hands or fingers, it will go up as an ipsilateral. When it reaches the medulla, it will cross and it will go to the opposite side of the cortex here, right? And if something happens, a damage to the cortex will cause the contralateral, means the opposite side of the hand, you will lose all this sensation. But if the lesion is here in the spinal cord, you will not feel all this sensation on the ipsilateral, means the same side of the hand. So this is all about the ascending tract.